staff, thank you. And Allie, anyone out there in Zoom land?
In Zoom we have Laura.
Thank you.
And Leanne.
Laura and
Leanne.
Leanne, thank you. Welcome to Laura and Leanne. I'd like a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Me too. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Agenda is approved. And I'd like a motion to approve the minutes as sent out electronically and just passed around.
So moved.
Second.
Any corrections or discussion?
I
All
didn't
those in
see.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The minutes have been approved. You said nobody from the public is here, so we don't have to go through that spiel. Discussion and next steps. System-wide focus areas, attendance, student engagement, targeting student needs. Anything going on we need to know about?
No new updates. You'll hear barriers to success this evening, and you're updated with our school sites. So we'll move on from there.
We are updated with the school sites. Oh, just to mention that though, because it usually has appeared on the agenda for the last few months. Middle school improvement report comes later in
Yeah, August or September.
August or
Yep.
September. Okay, so it hasn't been forgotten. It's just not right here, right now. Delegated sick board goals. Sharing with the full board, monitoring and implementing the district strategic plan and its integration into the city strategic plan. Once that plan is developed, if the plan hasn't been developed, we don't have to worry about that at all. Monitor and support the middle school, high school building committee and allocate resources to the development and implementation of the pathways approach to the secondary curriculum. Now, what I will say about that before anyone else has the chance to say anything is that as we've been seeing various progress reports from the builders and so on, the pathway is very much a part of the thinking as far as designing that building is concerned. And would anyone else like to comment further on that or say anything? No,
I would just add that I think you guys are doing an amazing job with keeping everyone up to speed, responding to a lot of the criticisms that are coming your way. I think it's being managed very well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We meet with the architects on a regular basis and the
we could.
pathways and the, all the time. And, that's a huge part of the conversation, making sure that the building is really going to support that type of learning. So it's very exciting.
and up to the minute technology for the things that we plan on having, and with any luck into the future, things that we don't know yet, but
Right.
we will want in the future. But just going real well in that sense. Oversee and support whatever is necessary to deal with the educational impact of the effects of prolonged distance learning. Anything to report there?
It's almost over.
Or will we hear that
It'll be
later?
history.
Hallelujah.
soon.
We're going to break into chorus.
Yeah.
We're starting to see some preliminary data come in at the elementary
Oh,
level,
good.
and it's looking really good. So I'm hoping that we'll have the opportunity. It's not completed yet, so we still have a few more
Okay.
weeks, but hopefully to have the opportunity to circle back to what we delivered. I believe that was February's meeting with the data to share with you where we're at, and we're just
That's great.
blown away by how well the kiddos are doing. So we can't wait to share that.
Which grade levels you're talking about?
So right now I've been monitoring closely kindergarten through 5th grade. I can't
Okay.
speak to the secondary because I haven't looked at that
That's a
and
good
where
chunk,
they're
though.
at,
That's a
but
good chunk of the school.
Mhm.
it's looking really positive. So I'm
Good.
just really excited. So
Okay,
can't wait to
so
share that with all of you.
less damage control maybe right now than we were fearing.
I
Yeah,
think
know
so.
you can't say it.
And it's hard to say, especially when we have all kids back in the fall and when we do our preliminary assessments then, and then compare that to what we see now in the spring, it will give us some insight as well.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on that?
Oh,
Any
and
questions?
we've had those K-5s in person for a much longer time, which has
Exactly.
been very
That's right.
beneficial.
Oh, that
That
makes a big
October
difference.
time
Yeah.
versus
Yes.
that March time.
Very true.
I think
Yes.
helped with that sense of normalcy and consistency of
Yeah,
instruction.
they've almost had a
and-
whole year in
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
So that really has helped
Good,
us.
but
Will there be a way to differentiate which kids were distance learners and which kids were in person when you look at the results?
Yes, so I know in particular, one reading assessment that we do conduct, it's called the DIBBLES. It's just an assessment of early reading. That assessment actually had us indicate whether the student took it remotely or in person. So my hope is that we're able to delineate between those two groups. So I will certainly look into that further and see what I can prepare for all of you when we're ready to have that discussion.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We had the opportunity to jump on a webinar earlier today with Doug Fisher. It was wonderful, and just listening to, he was coming in from San Diego, and just listening to him talk about the difference right now between what people are calling learning loss and unfinished learning. And there really he was cautioning us, right? He said, don't focus on something called learning loss, because there really hasn't been learning loss. We have no evidence to suggest that there's been regression. There's been unfinished learning and unfinished teaching, and it's happened all over the country. So it was uplifting, and I don't know if you have anything to add, but I was kind of jazzed by the whole thing. You know, instead of looking at this as a deficit, you know, try to focus on all the wonderful things that kids have learned that they might not otherwise have had to, you know.
And it really supported the idea of not focusing on remediation, but focusing on acceleration. And so it's really going to be more about how the teachers plan our instruction for next year to ensure that we catch kids up by using acceleration, an acceleration model.
Yeah, and we've got a plan in place for that for PD, so we're excited about that too.
okay. Now, is this the time to talk about who's signing up to teach summer school and so on, or will that come later?
Who's signing
Signing
up?
up to teach summer, last report we heard was that people weren't necessarily knocking down the door to.
We're in
teach
better
summer.
shape now. We can talk about that if you, whenever you want to, John, but that's part of finishing up our
Okay,
barriers.
Then
So,
we'll do it then.
Yep.
Okay. Other things at this immediate point on the agenda? Okay, new course proposals. We got those electronically and in the packet that we just handed out. The first is an early college experience philosophy course at the high school UConn course. Problems of philosophy.
right, so I have an email from Mr. Richardson on this. He was unable to be here with us tonight, but I'm just going to read it because he's the expert on this. So he shares that Torrington is one of a very few school districts in the state that offer philosophy for college credit. Wolcott High School does, along with a couple of the magnet schools and some of the high schools in high-performing districts. Pat Richardson met with one of the professors over at UConn who told him that he was very impressed with the level of rigor that our current course gives students and is reflective of the type of things students are expected to be able to do as freshmen on campus at stores in a typical 101 class. He has made his writing prompts, some class lectures, and syllabus available to Pat to incorporate into his class. He agreed that ECE philosophy offers an opportunity for kids who otherwise might not take an ECE class a chance to earn college credit due to their interest in the subject. Philosophy often attracts students who may struggle to maintain consistency in typical college classes, but can think outside of the box and feel empowered to engage their peers. Nearly 90% of students who take ECE classes are currently earning college credit. This course will also connect our students with college life on the store's campus through virtual workshops and events. It would also allow Torrington High School students to take part in the Ethics Bowl at Yale University in January with other high-performing schools. He said it was a great meeting and a real opportunity in his mind for Torrington High School to offer a diverse body of students exposure to a college-like course.
Okay,
Just have a question.
beyond.
It says, how will the adoption of this new course affect staffing? The impact will be minimal since we already offer the course as a half credit elective. So does this course already exist and we're making it a year-round course, or?
So we do have a philosophy course on the books right now. It's and Leanne is in the room, it's my understanding that this would replace that class, correct, Leanne? But that it would be accessible to all kids.
Right, yeah, there's no, a class that they have to take before that to enter into the classroom. No prerequisites. So any student would have the opportunity to take an ECE and have that college experience.
Right, so,
So would this eliminate the current
Yes,
philosophy class?
yes.
So we would only offer the UConn philosophy?
correct. But it's Pat's understanding, I believe, that would not be a problem, that due to the nature of this particular course, it would be accessible to any learner in our high school who wanted
Right,
to.
it kind of bridges what is standing right now and also, makes it that UConn experience as well. So it kind of is taking over that, but opening up the opportunity for any student to have that experience.
I have a question, and this is really specific to all the course proposals along these lines for the UConn credits or even college credits, being that we extend a half a credit towards their graduation. Why isn't it a full credit, given that, and if it's a half a year, I understand that being half a credit, but maybe it's something that if they're putting that much effort into it and it's worth 3 college credits, maybe it's worth a full credit at the high school level. I don't know. It's just,
I don't think I understand.
well,
Because this
it's
would
only
be,
a half a credit.
It's a weighted course, Sue, so it will be, they wouldn't get it. I don't think we could give them a full year's credit for a half a year course, but it's weighted like an AP course. So when their GPA is factored in, it's factored in at a higher rate because it's a.
So if it's an AP course, then does that
Oh, I
still
see
leave it
what she's
open to
asking.
all students at every level to take it?
Yes,
And
that's what's
succeed.
so
Yes,
wonderful about
yes,
this class.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So it's not specific to AP students.
No,
It is
and
an AP class. It's a UConn
It's-
co-op.
Right.
Or-
it's to
Yeah,
give
you
them
kind
the
of-
exposure to college, a college type course, but we can't give them a full credit because it's a college course. If it's a semester, we have to give them a semester, but they are
Okay.
dually enrolled, so they do get that
And is it,
college credit at
okay.
the same time.
Okay.
So that's the benefit for them.
but is it a staffing issue because now they have to have 25 credits to graduate, right?
Yes.
So is it a staffing issue that we can only offer for I'm just thinking of ways to provide additional credits when they're taking a course like this, make it a full year.
They would just enroll in another half
Another
credit
credit.
for the rest of the year.
Right.
And that's okay
Okay.
because it offers them another elective. This is a
Okay.
high interest class. A lot of kids love
Wanted-
taking it.
Okay.
And because Mr. Richardson teaches it,
Mhm.
they love that too.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the enrollment's always high.
Yeah, they'd still get the right balance of credits. It just would be one half.
No,
a
I
year and
understand
another-
that. I'm just thinking beyond that, like how can we offer additional credits? Because I recall we've talked about in the past, getting them to the point of 25 credits.
Yeah.
So what can we do other than continuing to offer half credits, offer full credits for classes like this?
But some,
I guess my
Oh,
question is
meaning
it a
right.
staffing issue?
No,
So-
we can't offer a full credit for a half a year course.
I understand that. So my question was,
why don't
why don't
we
we
make it a full
offer a
year?
full year
Right.
as opposed to half a year for these types of courses?
Right. So usually for electives, they're only half year unless they're like band or something where but
Right.
that's okay.
this is-
because we want to offer them this type of course is best in a half.
In a half a year?
in a
Okay,
half
that's the
year.
answer I'm looking
Right.
for, Sue.
Yep.
Thank you. Yes. That's exactly what I'm looking
Yeah.
for. Why is it not a full year?
Right.
So if it's the curriculum or however it's weighted, whatever it might be, that makes sense to me, but
And in addition to that, it gives the students the opportunity to take another half-year class.
in something else.
Exactly,
Okay.
and get maybe EC credit if there's another course, a half-year
Offers
course.
it
So now
Gotcha.
they're,
Now there's 6 credits in.
yes,
into college.
So-
Right.
exactly,
Right. If they're college bound.
correct.
So
we have,
again,
yeah, but we have a balance to offer, right? So we have those offerings for kids who want those and for those who don't.
yeah. different credit, different half
Right,
year.
and for a
electives.
kid going, you know, a student maybe wanting to kind of jump into something like this, who may not have thought he or she wanted college, might find that, wow,
That's
am-
interesting and
I can
Yeah.
do this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we would love to just, you know, add tons of courses. It
Yeah,
would be
right.
great
Yeah.
to just keep adding and
I
adding and
know, it
adding.
would, it
Yeah.
really would, just to give them more selection and,
Opportunity.
Exactly.
yeah.
And that's what's exciting. No, it's a great question. So we're working on it.
Yeah.
Goes back to the pathways,
Yeah, right.
comes
which is
together.
huge.
Yep.
I'm not a patient person, so like waiting for the pathways to get here.
Well, we have some in existence, but as Sue said, we're
A
growing
lot
it.
more coming. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to derail everything.
Other questions or points of discussion? And we'll move to the next course, which is the, let's see, African-American / Black and Puerto Rican / Latino contributions to United States history and society.
Right, so this one was also submitted by the Social Studies Department. And truth be told, we've been hanging on to this for a couple of months. It came in a couple of months ago. We didn't bring it forward sooner because we were, this is based on legislation from the state. It is going to be required of all high schools in Connecticut, beginning September 2022, to offer this course. It is an elective. The state is also working on developing the curriculum for this course. So the reason that we held on to it is we were anticipating having the curriculum available to bring forward at the same time. Forthcoming, exactly right. Exactly right, John. So we thought, you know what, it's not out there yet, so we better just bring it forward.
But the course will have to be out there next year by state law, so, or
Correct.
state guidelines, you call them.
I think in this case,
The
it's actual
legislators passed it.
legislation.
Yeah.
Requiring the State Department of Education to
Exactly.
prepare a course which would
Yeah.
then become mandatory.
Yeah.
Pathway and. Yes.
So I have a question, because I remember when this was passed initially and it was a half a year class
Mhm.
initially. And now I see that it's a full year course.
Mhm.
Does anybody know how that change happened? At what point the legislature made that change? Because it kind of happened during COVID.
Like everything, right?
And
Yeah.
because I remember we had the, oh, let me get the word wrong. When they came to the school and they talked to
The
people.
focus groups?
Yes.
Yes, the
Yep.
focus groups.
Yep.
That was literally like a week or two before everything shut down for COVID. And the Torrington group was the first one.
Mhm.
So I don't even, I mean, maybe they got through all of them somehow.
I think they did it virtually.
Yeah.
They leaned heavily on Zoom and things like that.
So like at that point, this was still a half year course.
Yeah, I don't know.
And
Do you
that's
know?
where,
I
because
don't know
people
when it
ask me about
changed.
that and I'm like, I don't have any idea where that change came in.
We can actually find that out because we're in touch with, CERC is working closely with the State Department of Education and we are in touch frequently with CERC. So we can ask that question of them and get back to you with an answer. We do have some, in case anybody was interested, some of the articles around it. There was an article at the end of February about Connecticut becoming the first state in the country to require this type of course. And then just if anybody wanted to read, you know, the Public Act,
Yeah, if
it's
you
here
wanna-
if you want to pass those around. So I don't know though. I don't know the answer to that. But so we've been told as recently as yesterday that the curriculum should be released this summer. So
Summer,
stay tuned.
so it starts in August.
It doesn't though. It's not required to start until the following fall.
Some districts
Some
are gonna
districts
run it.
are going to
Yeah.
run it though.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
other questions? Ellen?
Yeah.
So my question is, you said it was an elective,
Yep.
but it's mandatory.
It's mandatory that every high school offer it. So it has
As
to
an
be,
elective.
correct. It has to be offered
But
as
the
an
child doesn't have to
correct.
take it.
But children have to have the opportunity if they would like. Yes. Okay.
That clears it up.
Yep.
Didn't see how it would be an elective.
And a requirement.
Because originally it was gonna create a credit for graduation, but that's no longer in the law.
I'm sorry, what?
Originally, they had proposed it as it was gonna be a requirement for graduation. Did that come out too?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not required.
So
for
now
beverage
it just
students.
has to be offered. And down the road, it might, but
So it has to be offered beginning September 2022.
Correct.
Has to be, but it can be offered earlier by anyone that. gets-
Correct.
Correct.
That's
Yep.
correct.
I
There
think-
are some
Mhm.
districts that are going to start running
So-
it this fall.
Are we
they're-
looking to do that?
No,
No.
because our kids have already made their selections. Yeah.
There's about 18 to 20 districts that run it currently.
Oh, okay.
Well, a lot of places offered similar courses anyway, and maybe an
Mhm.
easy matter just to modify
Right.
whatever they had to meet these particular requirements. But I guess we have offered this in bits and pieces throughout the curriculum, and now we'll be assembling a course out of those bits and pieces, giving us more time to teach other things in those other subjects while still emphasizing this material
Mhm.
and giving it focus.
So it's offered in any year?
11th and 12th grade, I think.
Okay.
I
It could
think.
say.
That was
during
that's
the
easy.
season.
Yeah.
I think
Thank you.
yeah, I think it's 11th and 12th grade.
Is it 11th and 12th grade because that's the recommendation? Is it something that
Yeah.
can be
Yeah.
open, or is
Yes.
it too advanced to,
It's for 11th and 12th graders.
that's all?
Yeah.
It builds on
Yeah.
other material
Yeah.
that you should,
That makes
that you
Yeah.
should know before you
You have
go
the
into a course
foundations,
like this
yeah.
anyway. So-
maturity.
And it does depend on a degree of maturity too, that's true. Other questions? We will presumably hear more as these bones get fleshed out. Thank you. Good. Okay, and now we are to someplace that we cut off to get to the policy committee meeting last week. And it's a good thing we did because that meeting lasted a long time. But we are back to barriers to student success. And if you look in your minutes, you'll see where we left off with that. Thank you. And now we're going to turn it over to Mrs. Ferguson, I assume, or
Yes, our whole Office of Teaching and Learning has been working on this. I know. I feel like the movie Groundhog Day because we just keep coming back to this, you know? Yeah. Barriers to student success at our, so it's coming around. We printed out, oh, sorry, Melissa, here you go. We printed out the portion of the presentation that we didn't have a chance to review last time. And the top slide was added at your request. So I think Fiona actually had asked about high school failure data. So we gathered those numbers because we're still calculating and kids are still working and school's still in session. It really didn't make sense to look at semester 2, so we kind of just focused on semester 1. If you look at the top 2 data points, the first semester pre-COVID, so the 1920 fall semester, 11% of our students failed one class. The following year, so this past fall, right in the thick of COVID, 12% of our students failed one class, which I think is what Fiona's point was when she asked the question. However, if you look down the page a little bit, you'll see that pre-COVID first semester, 10% failed more than one class. During COVID, 32% failed more than one class. So there was a pretty incredible jump of kids who were having a very difficult time.
There's so much data to support that.
Yes, yes. We actually looked, all across the state and the nation and, did kind of a media search and found that these numbers pretty much are in line with what other districts were experiencing. We just found that it was really interesting. We know that we have a failure problem at the high school that has absolutely nothing to do with the pandemic, right? I mean, it existed pre-COVID. We're working on that. But to see the 32%, that was
Just magnified it.
right, a
Yeah.
direct link to what families and students were experiencing for whatever reason.
Mhm.
Yep.
And every family could have a different reason.
Correct.
It's
Exactly.
Yes.
It's just staggering to see the numbers and even the articles that are out there about it and just the struggles that people have gone through.
Right. And, you know, Maureen and I were talking about it just this afternoon. Some of our students are very private and don't want to share those burdens. Right. So
Yeah.
those are the, right? Go ahead.
Well,
It's really makes you want to cry.
Don't
Yes.
make me cry anymore today.
when you know,
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think we all know students who would rather, you know, saw off their arms than come in
Then-
and tell their teacher
Yeah,
that there's problems at home.
of course.
Right. So we often talk about identifying the barriers to student success and how can we do that? And what do we need to, how do we build support so students can be successful?
Mhm.
But sometimes it's a continual shot in the dark with kids that you just don't know what the problem is despite the best efforts.
And building the trust, I think, has a lot to do with it too. And I've seen that grow over the last couple of years and hopefully it'll continue to. Having that, the adults that kids can confide in and feel comfortable with, I feel like that's come a long way too,
Mhm.
which will help.
So we talked about how some of the systems that we have set up this year address the symptom of the problem, right? Our ARC, which has been pretty successful, and our extended day programs, also successful, address the symptom of the problem, but it's really not addressing the actual problem. And so that's why we designed the SST process. And so we're also having success with that. So we're hoping to get to the root of the problem.
Yeah.
But while we're getting to the root of the problem, we have to shore up,
Exactly.
you know, and address the symptoms of the problem.
Right.
So, you know, we'd love it if we could get to a place where, you know, once we are getting to the root of the problem, and you've spoken to this, I think, months ago, it's not going to be so critical to have so many supports in place because we're getting to the problem before it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
You know,
Jess had a question or something she was going to say.
Yeah, no, just a statistical question. So semester one, does this mean they failed one quarter or that they failed, like their semester grade wasn't failing grade?
Semester grade is
yeah, it
what they
was the
looked at.
semester grades.
That's why we couldn't provide the semester 2 for this year.
Right. Do we know how these numbers compare, like the gap, like in a regular year? Because even 2019, 2020 wasn't a regular year, but I mean, it was pass fail at the end there, so I'm assuming it probably didn't make a huge difference.
Well,
as
that's
far
why
as
we
when-
went with semester.
Oh, semester
one.
one. I see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
because it was really pre.
Is are these failure rates average with other schools in our DERG and schools similar to ours?
The
I-
COVID failure rates or
No,
the
just
pre,
in
pre?
the
general. Yeah,
pre-COVID.
No, it's high. And that's,
Is it-
yeah,
Yes.
and that's why we're an alliance district. We have a lot of work to do.
Right,
To
but I
be
mean,
honest.
Like you're saying even other alliance
In
Yeah.
comparison, yeah, in schools that are comparable to ours socioeconomically, et cetera.
Right. I
was
think
wondering
we'd
if
have to
that's-
look at alliance
Yeah.
versus Dirk because
Yeah, that would make more sense.
so we can probe into that further.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
probably the schools in our DERG that are like ours are probably Alliance,
Not all of them.
Yeah,
right?
some.
some.
And honestly, I mean, we did try to look around a couple of months ago. Some of this data is not easily accessible and people are not all that willing
Mhm.
to go public with
They
this.
don't want it out
Yeah.
there.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
because we don't even know what it means at this point. You know, just because it's been so unusual, we
Mhm.
don't know how to interpret it. I think.
Mhm. But we were having this discussion prior to the pandemic, right? I mean, this was something that we were looking at and recognizing to be a problem and, you know, trying to think about how to address it.
It would be interesting just to find out too if it's different with different grade levels. Like if you have a higher failure rate with ninth graders.
Yes,
versus
I can
12th
answer
graders,
that,
et
yes,
cetera.
unequivocally, yes. Yes,
Yeah.
Which is why we're trying to build in more supports to support ninth graders as they transition to the high school
Mhm.
and look at how we can build that support
Mhm. Make it more of a seamless transition.
I think it's a good point.
Well, exactly. You know,
Well,
there's
are you thinking that that the new structure will help with that?
Mhm.
Because there'll be,
Yep.
you're all guessing, yes,
Mhm.
definitely, that's good.
Yes.
Ally is moving us along and I agree.
Okay.
Thanks, Ally.
Right.
Before you guys go on, can I just say one thing?
Leanne wants to
Just
say-
one comment on that too. You know, when we're looking at comparing to districts, you know, that are in our DIRG or an Alliance district, when we were looking at some of the research for the grading policies and practices around the state, some of the findings that we had is that a failure for other districts was at a 60. So in our district, we look for passing at a 65. So there's about 100 kids that you're talking about more that our district would be reflecting in our percentages, as well as districts that have the no zero policy, districts that have no late penalties and things like that. So just like we're experiencing within our district with a different experience, depending on the class, the course, the teacher, that's happening across schools in the district too. So that's something just that I was thinking of, you know, in terms of the research findings.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder. We actually had that conversation today also with Robin earlier about, you know, the 60 versus the 65. And we do have students who are hovering around that 62, 63 who are failing. So, you know, and that's
And in another district, they wouldn't be.
correct.
Well, and that also, Leanne's point about the semesters, many districts offer credit based on semesters. So semester one would be a half a credit, as you see it is for the electives.
Okay,
But you might have an English 1 for ninth graders where you would earn a half a credit.
as opposed to having to complete the
wait.
year, wait to get the full credit.
So that
That's
is another
interesting.
Yes.
potential barrier to success. Because what happens is if students really fail badly at the beginning of the year, they lose hope. They have no
Exactly,
way to
because they have no
recover.
way, exactly,
Mhm.
as opposed to getting into the second semester and still getting that half a credit.
Right,
Because yeah,
Right.
it's kind of a no-brainer.
right.
A lot of districts have moved to that model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm,
And that
interesting.
offers other opportunities too, you know, because then you can change up even what your course offering is a little bit, you know, and make
This is all
things.
conjecture and we have something more concrete in front of us to move on with.
Yep.
Ally, if you would, please. Thank you.
Okay, so our work continues. So this is kind of, you know, what you've seen over the past couple of months at SICK is what's been happening. The next little bit is how we're addressing the problem. So we've been continuing even throughout COVID, the curriculum work. We're chugging along. All of that has continued virtually. We are now in a place where the summer curriculum work can happen in person. So we're very excited about that. We're continuing to focus on improving our tier 1 instruction. You've heard us talk probably ad nauseum about the learning grid and the different components of that learning grid, the learning targets, the formative assessment that's embedded, the domain-specific vocabulary. We're going to continue that work. In Torrington, we have suffered for a long, long time from initiative overload and, you know, not sticking with something long enough to give it an opportunity to take hold. And we're very conscious of not falling into that trap. So we're just going to keep going this coming year and just keep plugging along. You heard Maureen mention the acceleration model. This is something that school systems all over the world are looking at right now as a result of COVID, but it's just best practice anyway. Let's look at what our kids can do. Let's look at them through a strength-based lens and move from there and fill in where needed. Prioritizing the standards. We're in that meeting this morning, right? Where Jonathan Costa was talking about the Common Core standards and just how completely overwhelming they are. There's how many standards? Some ridiculous number of standards that, you know, that it just becomes unreasonable,
That would be
right?
Connecticut core standard.
Correct, correct, of course,
No, we mustn't say.
That's
right.
We're very special.
but it's just too much. So really to, power those standards and really decide what are the critical standards? What do kids really need to know and learn and be able to do, and build from there. And then, as both Andrew and Maureen have said, looking at our data to make our instructional decisions. Do you guys have something to add?
I do have a question on the standards, the number of standards that you just spoke about. Being an Alliance district, it doesn't change those standards. No, it doesn't even make sense for them to be.
They're the same all over the country.
The educational standard.
Right, but if it's shown statistically that the children, like our numbers, then you would think that the standards, it doesn't apply, they're not the same standards all over the country, right? It's state by state.
Pretty much
They're-
the states are in agreement.
That's why they're called standards, because
Right.
they're pretty standardized. You
Okay.
Connecticut just wanted to,
Add to it.
add their name to it.
I think this is to avoid the principle that when all else fails, lower your standards. This is to make sure we don't do that, in fact, when things are difficult.
The Alliance
Yeah.
District, I think, is more looking at like a lifeline that you've been identified as an Alliance District. We're gonna give you funding to help improve.
Okay, to get you to where,
get
to
you
the
where you need
standards.
to
that
be.
you
Exactly.
see. Yeah.
Exactly.
And if
Yeah.
you don't or wish to be non-compliant,
Then
the
we will
state
take you over.
the district.
Yeah,
So this is your last lifeline. So
before
work to
losing.
make the
Yeah.
corrections or fight the corrections and. that'll
Our
be the next
diploma
step.
has to mean the same thing that
Right.
every other school system's diploma means. If it doesn't, we're not doing our job.
Mhm.
Right, because
Yeah.
then when students
if-
apply for colleges all over the
It's all,
country.
okay, right,
Right.
right, makes sense,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
And if at some point, if we ever get beyond barriers to student success, we would be happy to, sorry, just a little
It's
levity.
just such a huge
I know.
thing.
No, but,
It's,
But
it
we
is,
could
like,
honestly,
it's mind numbing.
we could bring to a SIC meeting a sample of some of the standards if people are interested in seeing what those look like.
Yeah, those are no secret. They're available.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can find those online.
I'm
Okay.
just learning as I go, John.
Allie, you want to keep going? Okay, you want to talk about,
When?
yeah, this looks
Sure.
like high school stuff.
Okay, so we're trying to build our in-school supports, and so we've created the Win Blocks K-8. Right now, they have a learning lab in our middle school, which is kind of where all kids go to get their work done. We have the Academic Resource Center at the high school, which has been really pretty successful. Some of the data that's come in, and Leanne can fact check me, but when you look at kids that are attending regularly, it's over 70% of kids are showing improvement in their grades.
Great.
And that's as reported by teachers. They've really done a nice job of having goal setting. The kids create SMART goals for themselves. They kind of manage, they're starting to learn how to use their executive functioning skills, how they're managing projects, but with teacher support. We're thinking about trying to lift off maybe a STAR study hall at the high school. We're still in the talking phases about this, but having more of a targeted support where there's smaller study halls where teachers can help students with these kind of skills that would be an ARC, but that it would be for freshmen. And so it would really be a help in that transition period.
Sure.
And it could be something that runs opposite of our Habits of Mind class, which is explicitly teaching the soft skills, executive functioning, time management, study skills, note-taking. And then also, we're also using our Habits of Mind as a beginning of a soft launch for our capstone project. So there's just a lot that's happening in our Habits of Mind class, but it's also giving kids an opportunity to build a relationship with another adult in the building that can help support them.
Right.
And I also think the common planning time for teachers, we're really working hard at providing opportunities for teachers. And so next year, everybody's a little nervous because we're losing our Wednesdays, but the buildings are working really hard at trying to find times for course teams or grade level team meetings to happen so teachers can talk about best practices, what's working, looking at the data that's coming in and determining where we've been successful, where we maybe need to reteach, that type of thing. But it's all geared at raising the standards and, well, you know, and having high expectations.
Raising the bar.
Yeah, thank you.
Raising the bar. That's a good one. That's better. Much better.
WIN looks a little different at K to 5. I don't know if Andrew, you have anything to.
Sure. I'll give you a brief example. For example, this year, what we looked at was that Dibbles assessment that I mentioned earlier, where we assess students' early reading abilities in terms of the foundational skills. What we noticed is from September to January, we didn't see that much movement in kindergarten through third grade. So the principals and I, we got together along with our instructional coaches and really put our heads together about what is really going to help kids here, because we know the importance of the foundational skills, particularly in the science of reading. And so what we thought about was how could we best utilize the WIN block to really move students forward in this area? And what we decided was what would be really beneficial for the students was to have an extra hit of our phonics program daily, the foundations. So every day kids have 30 minutes of foundations, 10 minutes of a phonemic awareness program as well, so 40 minutes already. And then in addition, we gave another 30 minutes of foundations. And that's where we have seen a dramatic increase in students' abilities in the foundational skills. So when we were truly utilizing data to make decisions, it has been transformative for our kiddos. And it's been amazing. I've been able to zoom into some of the grade level meetings that principals have been having with teachers, where they're examining the data to make instructional decisions. So for example, weekly, bi-weekly, teachers are progress monitoring student performance in this area and immediately responding to student needs. So all of this has just been incredible. The real intense focus on the data has been amazing. I go back to these 5 things here that we're committed to these things. One of those being using data to drive instruction. Before, as Sue mentioned, we were sort of all over the board with lots of initiatives in the district. Now that we're focused on 5 things, now we're really starting to see us, move forward and start to make dramatic improvement in student performance. So I'm just so proud of all that work.
Are you seeing more engagement, more excitement with the teachers and better engagement? And now that they can see, because it must be overwhelming to them they have these kids, they can't track who's doing what at what time and where everyone's at. So to see, I would imagine as a teacher, seeing these numbers just climb, it has to be rewarding after all of they've been through in the last year and a half. A good boost.
Exactly, and that we're staying committed and focused to certain programs rather than pulling from all different places. Exactly, that we're sticking with foundations, we're sticking with integrity. And when we stay committed and have a consistent language across all classrooms, that's really what's helping us move forward.
And that's where we need to get them started, is at the elementary level.
Well, it's so exciting too, because
right.
that's the piece that's been missing. And we've talked about this at SIC also. That's the piece that's been missing for so many years from the reading and writing program, really, that most districts use, even at the lower levels. It's not comprehensive enough. It doesn't have an intense enough focus on the phonics and the phonemic awareness. So by, we're kind of trying to supplement with additional resources, and we're seeing payoff. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to adopt a new reading program that is more comprehensive. And we're still working toward that, but the state, again, just passed some legislation that they're going to develop a list of 5 acceptable programs, and they haven't done that yet. We don't have the list.
So you have to wait for the list.
We have to wait for the
come,
list to be generated. So in the meantime, though, we've got this kind of stopgap. So
And it's really helpful. Yeah.
Extended day.
But,
Extended
also
day,
just seeing
sorry.
the through line between what we're doing at the district to the buildings has just been amazing. So we're all going the same way.
Ellen wants to.
I like seeing phonics back in.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Because
And you're seeing a
when I went
difference.
to school, we had a phonics class.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it was separate. You had your own phonics book. And
A apple a.
Yeah.
Is that in a little circle in groups and someone else took math and your little group
Yeah.
took phonics, and I'm very pleased to see that.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
gonna
that
have
was a
tremendous
tremendous
payoff.
help.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It really is. Okay. John wants to extended day.
Okay.
John, we're very excited about this.
I know.
I do want to finish this time. We have a couple more things.
Okay, that's
right.
So extended day is actually wrapping up wrapped up already at the elementary and the middle, right?
Correct.
And at the high school, they actually, believe it or not, asked if they could extend extended day by a couple of weeks. So we have done that. And Maureen, you
That's
have
great.
an exciting story
I
to
know,
share.
there's a
for
couple
Torrington.
of good stories. There have been students who have gone up to the coordinator of our extended day at the high school that asked for, we need to have this program through the end of the school year, which is so wonderful, which is what prompted her to
Yeah, to
ask, is there
advocate,
any?
like-
Wow.
Right.
To have kids ask,
Yeah.
wow.
And then another student approached her and said, are they gonna start this at the start of the school year? We can't do this in March. I need this
Yeah.
to start in September.
I need help.
Fantastic.
That's
Which
great.
Like I
is-
need after school help all the time, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
But I mean, that combines self-awareness and self-advocacy,
Yeah.
right? So,
Right.
which tells us that some of the stuff that we're teaching, because many of our extended day students are also in ARC. And so they are starting to understand that part of their job is to tell us what
What
they
they need,
need.
and they're
Right,
doing
right.
that.
And they're
Really
doing it.
comfortable enough with the
Wow.
adult to-
That's great.
And
Incredible.
I think it also, it's nice to see kids giving up their own time
Mhm.
to do well,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
They're giving up their study halls, they're giving up their after-school time in order to maximize what's happening in the classroom.
Because they're seeing results
Yeah.
themselves, and that's, yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Will we be
That's
able
a
to do
lot.
extended day in the fall?
Yes,
We should be able to
That's
make
our
it work.
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we have with our ESSER funds, a little bit of Alliance and a little bit of American Rescue Plan. So it's all over the place, but yes, we have enough.
and
Oh.
ARC.
How has the attendance been with extended day? at
So
the various
extended day,
levels?
they track it. At extended day at the high school, of 106 permission slips came in. Approximately half of the students really came. So right away, we saw that there were students that did not take advantage of the opportunity. And so now what that tells us is we're not reaching them, right? So that was, we provided a remedy to a symptom we thought was there, but we're not providing the right remedy, right?
Like what
So
we talked about last night.
Are you telling the parents that they're not?
Yes.
The parents sign the permission slips, then the kid doesn't show.
yeah, there's follow-up, and now what we have to do is kind of work a different angle on this. It's not just, I think like we come to the point where we can't hammer in the round peg into the square hole, right?
Mhm.
So now we have to approach it from a different angle, but
The
that's
kid has to
fine.
want to be there, it doesn't work anyway.
Right.
Right.
Well, and if they're not engaging during the school day, for them to come for 2 hours after school and then engage, to go from 0 to 60 is hard unless they actually want to.
Mhm.
And
Right.
so this is showing you, I think, how many kids actually are willing to put that in. Just
Still
Which
doesn't-
is still a
great,
significant
yeah.
amount.
absolutely.
53
And
kids or.
In
Yes.
ARC, we have 126, Leanne can fact check me. Last I heard, we had about 126 kids in ARC scaffolds throughout the day. So the need is great.
Very good.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Um,
Summer,
Summer programming, summertime.
summertime, when the living is easy. Not this year, right? Not this year. So since we last talked about this, I think we spoke about it briefly at last week's board meeting. We've even adjusted it since then. I think we're gonna do the elementary at Vogel. It's gonna stay at Vogel. We had planned on having K-8 there, but now we're thinking of having 6 to 12 in one place, right? Is that the plan? 6 to
Yes.
12 in one place. We're trying to keep it in 2 buildings rather than 3 for many reasons, for food distribution, for, just ease of programming and that sort of thing. And it's for a very practical reason. The middle school has air conditioning and the high school does not. So, that's what we thought about doing that. You heard last week that the lower levels, and Andrew can talk about this, it's going to be exciting, the Summer Olympics, right? We're doing
Yeah,
that
sure.
thing.
So absolutely. So the Olympics hopefully are happening this summer in Japan. And I thought what better way to really help build students' background knowledge than integrate a little bit about what's happening in the world through fun, exciting, enriching programs, which everything that they do will be aligned to the Olympics. So for example, our youngest learners are going to be doing a research club part of the day and STEM sports part of the day, community building,
Fun.
team building. So just a lot of fun. It's going to feel like they're going to camp more than it is that they're learning, but there's the academics built into it.
That's
It's
great.
really, really exciting. I will just make a public plea to, families who have been invited, please, sign up your child. 50 invitations at each grade level, K to 5, have been put out. I've received, I want to say, about 15 to 20 per grade level. So please respond. When you mentioned the staff, we have the staff, so we just want to fill the spots.
Sure.
At one point, I will be sort of inviting more families once we don't have a response from the initial 50, because we truly do want to fill these spots for all students. It's such an exciting opportunity. So please encourage, send your child. It's going to be fun, exciting. It's a great experience. So looking forward to it.
Yes, and back to John's question. Yeah, so in the 11th hour, we did get people come forward to say, yeah, sign me
Yes.
up. Yeah,
Mhm.
so that's
Now we
good.
want the kids.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And then
Yeah.
at the middle school level, they're going to engage in that personal interest project that we talked about last
Right.
week, which is that passion driven. Our teachers they were initially due to be trained at the end of June, but they bumped it a week later into the 1st of July. This is going to kind of be a pilot for us, because we're hoping that if it's engaging enough for the students and the teachers, that it might be some sort of component that we could build into, some regular, I know.
I'm already thinking. Don't steal ideas. That's what we do. So I cannot.
I know.
wait
Yeah.
to Be able to incorporate this in my classroom.
I know, it
actually.
sounds amazing, right? Yeah, we're very excited about it. And then, the high school obviously is a different animal. It's all about credit recovery. Everything's much more cut and dry at that level. You either earn the credit or you don't. So anything else you wanted to add?
No, we're looking at when our guidance department's working hard at trying to identify what focus areas we would have to target for students. And then, so even if they'll share with us which credit students need, so then we'll be able to populate classes. So that's what we're working through.
Okay, and the last 2 slides are just on PD and what the plan is going forward for that. So for the foreseeable future for teacher professional learning, it's going to be really unpacking those standards, looking at those, what are the priorities, what are the absolutely essential things our kids need to know and be able to do right now. They're also going to be trained to use Performance Matters, which is the data analytics system that we've been talking about. We have training planned, ongoing training for them starting in August on acceleration. And then we continue that work that we talked about just a few minutes ago with the learning grid. And then very similar for our administrators, we'll have continued training. They have been introduced to Performance Matters, also been introduced to the acceleration model. We've also been talking with our administrators throughout the year on critical or courageous conversations. And then again, data-driven decision-making, the STAR and Freckle. And really the STAR and Freckle is a tool for teachers, but also for administrators. Both of those platforms offer opportunities for really very informative reports on student performance. So we need to take a deeper dive into that resource.
Okay, short questions on database. Jeff, you want to go back to one thing about 2-5 after school or not?
Yeah, that was.
You did. I went too fast to give you a chance.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering with the attendance at the extended day, I think we only talked about the high school. How about grades 2 through 5 and 6 through 8? Has it been better attended with the younger kids or?
So yes, particularly the in-person kiddos, but the program just ended Thursday. So at our next meeting, I can get you the numbers.
Okay.
I have all of those spreadsheets. I apologize. I haven't had a moment to add all of those up, so I can certainly get that for you.
We'll be looking
6 to
forward
8.
to them next one. Okay, well, thank you for helping us finish this.
Yeah.
Fiona has a question. She's not willing to let this go.
Do we know how many kids will be able to participate in the summer school at the secondary level this summer?
We're targeting
estimate. I'm not gonna.
You can see my it's like smokes coming out of my head.
I'm not
We're
gonna hold you
hoping
to it.
for
Just looking for an
75
idea.
students per grade level for 6 through 8.
Oh, wow.
And then more for the high school.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's great.
So we're just, thankfully, we have, one thing we didn't talk much about is our partnership with Ed Advance over the summer. And so Ed Advance is going to be supplying some teachers and some support staff. So we would not have been able to do that much with our middle school had we not had such a
Their
great
support.
partnership with Ed Advance.
Awesome.
And also care beyond the hours of summer school, which at my
Right.
level, they're
Especially
8:30
for
to
the younger
12:30.
ones,
So if
yeah.
families say can't pick up their kid at 12:30,
Right.
they will get care for the remainder of the day.
Which is
through Ed Advance,
great.
Which is
Yeah,
amazing.
at no
It is
cost to
amazing.
them.
Yeah.
Free.
At no cost to
Wow.
families, so
Yeah.
it's really
That's such
exciting.
an
So there's a
outrage.
tremendous incentive to send your child for
Yeah.
that experience, really.
We've been saying all along, more money will give us the things that we need to get things really done.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
the money is there for
Yep.
the reasons that it is. Okay, the website, Alti, social media updates. Ally, this is you.
Pass it around, Ally.
201 people in the last 28 days viewed our Facebook page. New people. 6 new people liked our Facebook page. 1,466 posts reached people. And we had 195 types of engagement, like, share, comment. So some highlights. Last month, we had the Academic Awards Night, grades 9 through 11. 314 people have watched that night. And just as a shameless plug, tomorrow night, we have also the High School Scholarship Night and Senior Awards Night, which will also be live streamed tomorrow starting at 5:30. And it'll be on our website.
Is the awards at 5:30 and scholarship at 6:30 or?
7.
Scholarships at 7, right.
Right, but the
Scholarships at
senior
7.
awards are at 5:30.
Right, I hope that's true because I told Steve Roskowski he better show up at 7.
Right,
Well,
it's not-
I won't be there till then anyway.
Yeah.
I have an advanced board of directors meeting before that. in the
Okay.
afternoon,
So
so-
Busy.
it's 7.
Yeah, so that's 7 o'clock is when the scholarship people.
Correct.
Yes.
There'll be a reseating, or will it just go continuously, or what? How are we gonna do
I
that?
think it's one
I think
event that
there's-
ends
yeah.
and
Right,
then
we
there's
got
So
a
there'll be a
break.
break in between.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're gonna have
Reshuffle.
Something different.
We'll be
It's
waiting
two
for you,
different.
John.
It's the same length.
Yes, it is
Okay,
different this
same
year. They don't
Okay.
normally do it that way.
Okay.
I think because they weren't sure what the capacity would be and where we could hold it and if it was,
Gotcha.
if we had to do virtual. So it just, so then they finally said, no, let's just do it all in one night.
So the seniors go all in.
Correct. Just make it easier.
Okay, that's good. Anyone gets there at 5:30 can be there for both, right?
There you go.
Each, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Ally, anything else to add to this?
That's it.
Thank you, thank you. Next, we are looking for TAG. Laura, you're up there someplace. Anything going on with TAG?
Not too much right now. I have received some phone calls from some parents that have been questioning the process, and it's been going very well. We've had about 4 students that have actually begun to go through the testing process. And then we've had some other parents that called and questioned about it. And when I talked about the actual, sorry, my clock's going off. When I talked about the actual criteria, they were like, oh, I don't really think my child meets that criteria. So it's just been interesting because I think there are some parents that thought that their child was gifted. And, when they've looked at the criteria, they're like, oh, okay, but we talked about differentiation and, meeting the needs of the children on that upper end that need that extra enrichment and whatnot to keep them engaged. So, talk to the parents about that. They seemed thankful that, we had something like this beginning now. We're basically looking to see if we're going to be able to get those resources in place for next year so that we're able to do the pilot and also do the group administered IQ test.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Comments?
This is so great.
Isn't it? Yeah. So good to hear. Thank you, Laura.
Long time.
Alliance update. we're getting in the home stretch here. Alliance.
Yeah, so we will be meeting with Iris White, our state rep, in July, beginning of July. So we do our end of the year and then we'll bring our end of the year results and
Okay,
insights.
okay. We are two topics for future meetings: social promotion, homogeneous versus heterogeneous grouping, and the Washington field trip. Anyone want to talk about anything else, or does anyone know that there'll be Fiona first?
Just, I think we really have to start focusing on the next level of movement once the high school opens. So looking at grades. I'm sorry.
4, 5, 6.
4, 5, 6.
Okay, grade reconfiguration, should I
Yeah.
put that down? Okay.
I think that's going to be a long process.
Mhm.
And as Ronnie can attest,
Ad
that she
hoc.
was on the elementary ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
There's a lot more involved than we think.
Yes,
Yes.
right. Okay, so we start, we plant that seed next month. Any other topics for the summertime? Right?
Maybe, I'd like to hear more about what's going on with the pathways right now, if we know what our pathways are.
Status
Sure.
report on pathways?
Yeah.
Put it all together, okay. Anyone else?
Good.
Okay, comments for the good of the order. Kim?
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
Marissa? Okay, up on the screen, Laura?
I'm good, thank you.
Leanne?
Just happy to be here tonight. Love to hear the progress. Glad to step in for Robin and be on Zoom instead of just watch you on TV.
Ronnie?
I love the positivity. Despite everything, we're positive and moving forward, and that is just, it just gives you the energy to finish up the last few days. So thank you.
Yeah,
Sue?
absolutely. Thank you, Ronnie. I totally agree. So very exciting. And you did it, John. I can't believe. Very timely. Efficient meeting as always.
Sue?
Oh, thank you for a great meeting and for getting us through the barriers to student success. We needed to get to the home stretch.
Ellen?
Great meeting, great information. It's exciting.
We do get good
We
information.
do.
Ellie?
We give a shout out to OTL, especially if anybody watched Andrew's face when he was explaining about the data-driven. It's like he's so proud and amazing to passionate.
Yeah.
It's like wow, I'm blown away. So thank you.
We need that close-up camera for next time. Fiona?
Just great stuff. It's nice to finally be in a position where we have all the right people in all the right places, and it's only up from here.
Fiona?
Great meeting. Thank you for that report. It was wonderful to hear the good news and celebrate not only our students, but the teachers and how hard they're working as well.
Yeah, yes.
Maureen?
Thank you to Sue and Sue for their leadership. Without that, we wouldn't be where we are right now.
Rebecca, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, right? Takes a village.
Thank you. I'm just so excited for next year already. So
We
excited.
know, we know.
Thank you.
Nothing else, just good meeting.
And I have to say the same thing I've been saying all along. Thank you, everybody, for the participation and being here and participating, and good information and good things are happening. And we are meeting next on, meeting in July, really, Fiona. Did we really do that to
No, we
ourselves?
don't have
We
meetings in
did
July.
Nothing
No.
in July. Dale, gracias. Okay.
Retreats are in July.
Yeah.
August 4th, right? August 4th.
Next meeting.
I guess location, et cetera, to be, well, we'll probably be here considering it's the August.
Somewhere
meeting,
cool.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have to be thinking what we're doing about Zoom and things like that. Anyway, I'm looking for motion to
It's hot
adjourn.
here, I'm hot.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
We are adjourned.